Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 7 November 2013. I have just a short video for you all this evening, and we're going to talk about the Chris Reeve Sebenza. Not a review, not even an extended use report. More of an informational explanation of the mystique that is the Sebenza. And this video is kind of spurred by a text conversation I had this afternoon with my buddy and YouTube subscriber, David, for whom the Sebenza was also something of a grail knife, and at least a knife that aroused some curiosity in him. He always wondered if it was worth its hype and its price tag. And he finally got one, and he was pretty excited to get it. And I think he's had it for, 2 days now. And the first day he got it, he opened it and took it out and played with it for a little while. And he texted me and he said, I'm not overwhelmed. When I opened the box, I didn't hear bells and angels singing. And I had to chuckle a little bit and say I understand. You open a plain white cardboard box, albeit adorned with some pretty impressive stickers, and then you pull out a big, gray hunk of titanium with a very subtly stone-washed blade, and you open it and it's tight and it kind of fights you. It's got a strong detent and a really strong lock bar, and you struggle to get it open and your hand's not used to it. And you think for just a moment, I spent $400 and what dollars for what? And, I get it. I really do. And in those first couple hours, and I think most first-time Sebenza owners, myself included, would concur, you kind of wonder, what did I pay for here? I'm used to buying knives with, super slick pivots and fast opening methods like flippers and thumb holes and, angled knurled thumb studs and super slick phosphor bronze washers and free swinging pivots and ball bearings, all these things. And we live in this age now, 2013, of knives that open themselves, and there seems to be more emphasis placed these days on speed of deployment and fast actions and stuff that make knives fun to play with, and I think a little bit at the expense of rigidity and solidity and close tolerances and knives that are really built to last and work hard. And let's remember, guys, the Sebenza is now 25 years old, at least 25 years since it was a twinkle in the eye of one Chris Reeve. It didn't grow up in this era of super fast, tactical fondling blades. It was the idea, the brainchild of a man who wanted a folding knife that would work hard, endure much, be a knife of a lifetime. And that's what it is. Now, I think where guys get confused is they hear such differing reports and they're not sure what to think. You hear about Sebenzas being unbelievably smooth. Nothing is as smooth as the Sebenza. And you hear about this mythical piece of mechanical perfection, the Chris Reeve bushing pivot. All that's true. It really, really is. I'll try to show you the smoothness. I'll hold the knife firmly in my hand and just grab the blade tip and not supporting on anything. I'm just going to pull it open and notice how there aren't any hitches in its motion. Nothing's grabbing except the detent all the way through that range of motion. And closing, same way. It really is that smooth. And, you know, just listen to the sounds it makes. No big thwack. Just this beautiful, solid little clunk, even when it closes. Everything's muted, damped. Nothing thwacking or smacking or cracking. You know, it's just got these neat little solid noises that it makes. It's not boisterous. Now, I will say a couple things. Given the knives I've handled over the last few years, my hand did not readily take to the Sebenza. And this is what David texted me about today. He says, "Man, does that thing hurt your thumb?" And I sort of had to chuckle, and we texted back and forth for a while. It's got a bit of an odd angle. The thumb stud isn't up here where it's very close to a straight forward move to build tension and get the blade out. It's quite a ways back, and it requires a bit of an outward arc. And it's very easy when you first get this knife to get dug in against that thumb stud and try to push it forward, and it's just not going. And my thumb killed me after a couple days of owning this knife. And I finally just had to study it and figure out, okay, why that smooth round knob on the top of that thumb stud? And what angle do I need here? And it finally occurred to me. I got it through my brain and transmitted that to the muscles in my hand, that it just wants you to lay your thumb firmly on that button without exerting a lot of squeeze pressure on the lock bar. And it just wants you to push that little button into your thumb and gently move it in its arc. And there are those who have said, you know, the Sebenza is not a viable tactical knife because it won't flip. It's not fast. It takes too much work to get out. Well, you know, my knife is, a month and a half, almost 2 months old. And yeah, I've tuned it. I've done a little bearing polishing, and I've gotten it to where I want it, which is when I remove all the lock bar tension and get the detent ball off the blade, it drops freely. And it's, you know, I keep it clean and I keep it lubricated with fluorinated grease. But here are the facts. I can hold that knife in my hand with no wrist, and that's how fast it is. It's about knowing where to put your thumb, your hand developing some muscle memory to know how much tension to build and at what tangent to apply the force, just like any other knife. The Sebenza is a little different. Now, it's also the original, so maybe our hands have formed some bad habits with other knives over the years. I don't know. And I know Chris Reeve Knives will say in its literature, this is not a knife intended to be flicked open repeatedly, slamming the tang of the blade into the stop pin. But really, I mean, come on, look at the size of the stop pin. I think maybe he prints that in his literature because people complain that it's not fast enough, so he just says, fine, it's not designed to do that. Well, yes, it is. I promise it is. It just takes a hand with a little bit of experience with the blade. I kind of like that about the Sebenza. The casual knife user can't pick up a Sebenza and be impressed with it in its action, but the guy who appreciates it, who wants to get to know it, learn what makes it tick, know what it likes, he's rewarded. And, you know, I told David when we were texting today, I know it doesn't seem like it's as much fun as a paramilitary 2, but trust me, it will become that. Mine certainly has. You know, this is my home at night watching TV knife. I like to just make it make those noises. I don't sit there and flip it. I sit there and do this with it. You know, I marvel at how smoothly the detent engages. And how it securely grabs that blade. So subtly and so securely. You know, I just like to feel the smoothness with which that blade travels its arc from closed to open. I like to feel the predictable, almost soft and hydraulic, perfect amount of lock stick. I kind of like to marvel at how smoothly the knife closes with the lock bar pressing against it. And this knife has more lock bar pressure than any frame lock I've had in my hand, even a Tough. But as I said in my review video, all that force is borne by that huge washer on the off side of the pivot. Let's see if we can see that. Yeah, we can see it. Look in there. You can see both washers. The one on the near side and the one on the far side. See how far that inner washer comes out. So as that detent ball is pressing on the blade tang, there's full support of phosphor bronze washer on the other side. And the smoother that far side washer is, the smoother your knife will open and close. You can either do that by break-in or you can do it by polishing. I chose to polish. Oh yeah, even with my lock disengaged, I'm going to rest the blade on the detent. So I'm not locked up against the stop pin. My side-to-side play, that's hard to do with the camera because I can't see. But there is none. There is no wiggle at all. So, that smooth, that free, no play, and out she comes. Closes the same every time. Centers the same every time. And locks up the same every time. Just about 40%, which is pretty early for a Sebenza. I kind of like that. Full enough for great support, with room for lots of wear. By the way, the carbidized lock face on this knife still looks brand new. It's beautifully flat, it's beautifully lapped. Just the tiniest bit of corner wear from where it breaks over the edge of the tang as it engages. But the locking surface looks brand new. And it's been opened and closed hundreds of times. If you own a Sebenza and you're a new Sebenza owner and you're starting to wonder if you did the right thing, use the knife. And if you guys look close, after a couple months, my corners are starting to get a little shiny. I got a little wear on the handle from things sliding in and out of my pocket. Got a little wear on my clip. It's starting to look good. Got a little wedding ring wear. I do usually move my wedding ring over to my right hand because this is a lefty Sebenza. Because that wear got to start to bother me a little bit on the spine of the handle. But I didn't buy this knife to sit in my safe and look at. I bought this knife to use because I'm a knife guy. So just a few musings and a little bit of advice for those of you who might be considering or buying a Sebenza, or guys who have just bought one wondering if you did the right thing. I think those are the reasons you hear such conflicting reports about this knife. Usually, the negative opinions or impressions of this knife come from people who haven't spent enough time with this knife, or don't really know what they're looking at. I suppose that there can be a case made on an objective level, that, or at least a subjective level, for good reason, that this might not be the knife for you. But I think most of what you hear that's negative about the Sebenza just isn't very well-founded. Best $410 I've ever spent on one knife or five. And to borrow a closing line from my friend John at One All's Pub, that's my 2 cents. Keep the change. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and my Sebenza are sharp.